Hello, everybody. Today on Staffing Buzz with Brooke, we have two exceptional ladies in front of us, Leslie Vickrey from ClearEdge Marketing and Lauren Jones from Leap Consulting. We're chatting about women leaders in staffing today. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Brooke.
So to start off with the first question we have here. Can you guys share what some of the most important tools for you as a women leader in staffing are?
Okay, so I have an arsenal of tools. One of my favorites is Pager, so it helps me with all of my social posts. Obviously, staying on top of that is really difficult. So that's probably one that I use the most. I'm a huge, Microsoft fan. So I'm a big OneNote user, and then I am now looking for a CRM. So yeah. I use Jarvis. I use a million different things. So obviously I'm the technology person, so I love it all. I can't live without Canva Pro. I will tell you that. I cannot live without it.
Okay, good to know. Leslie, what about you?
So I'll take a different spin. Actually, Lauren helped our agency with all of our tools and technologies and assessing where we were as an agency, what we were using, and where we were headed, and making some recommendations. But I'll take a little bit of a different spin on tools. For me, I'll go the route of some of the resources in the industry that have helped me. So one, just the network of different leaders and groups being associated with the Women in Leadership group through ASA has been a tremendous resource, just being connected to other leaders and entrepreneurs who I could lean on. Lauren and I actually meet every week, usually at this time of the recording, accountability partners and different friends in the industry who have helped me quite a bit. And then, of course, just being part of the different associations. So Staffing Industry Analysts, TechServe Alliance, and ASA, just having the reports and the webinars and different things, again, peer groups that I could lean on have been great tools over the years. So kind of the people and then the networks and connections there have been wonderful for me.
Perfect. So what would you say, this might be a loaded question, but what was your biggest challenge or biggest upside to the journey?
Biggest upside to the journey? Oh boy. Freedom. Freedom. Yeah. Freedom to say what I want to say, freedom to do the things that I want to do and I feel like are important, freedom to invest in the things that are important to me and the women that are important to me. And that's not necessarily an option that you get when you're beholden to a larger organization.
Yeah. What about biggest challenge?
Oh gosh, challenges. I'll say just for me, I mean, obviously running a marketing agency, this may not be obvious, but with my background, I actually came from marketing. So I ran marketing for Interim's technology division, which became Spherion, which then eventually became Randstad. And starting my own company, I had never been in sales before. Of course, I grew up in the staffing and technology industries, but it's different when you're not in a P&L role. So learning everything about a company, from having contracts to insurance to hiring and bringing people on as employees to the financial side and selling, all of those things that I had never done before. But I really wasn't afraid to ask for help. I knew what my inexperience was at the time, and I knew what I excelled in. And if I focused on the areas that I was really strong, so my strengths, I could lean into those and then ask other people for help along the way. I think some of the biggest challenges I had, I would say, just kind of early on being taken seriously as a woman in business, and an entrepreneur. I know I share some stories about when I was expecting our son Grayson, who's now 6, just people saying things to me like, oh, are you now, closing your company? Like, no, I employ, I mean, now we're up to almost 80 people. At the time, let's say it was around 40. Like, I know this is a serious thing. This is a real company. No, we're not closing the doors. And, by the way, generations of women have run companies. This isn't anything new. So I think that was definitely a challenge that I had to overcome a little bit, but, not being afraid to ask for help has definitely been a huge positive, I'd say, in my favor.
Being self-aware is so important.
Mhm.
And so how do you guys, do you think you've seen any change in the industry on how the representation of women have been looked at?
Ooh, well, perception is different than actuality, right? And so on perception, I don't know. I mean, I would say that I feel like we're changing minds. I feel like we're seeing representation improve and the numbers behind that, but we have such a hill to climb that I think I'm not as focused on the progress as I am on the action. Because I mean, Leslie shares this all the time. It's going to take us generations.
Mhm.
Was it 136 years? You say, Leslie, 136 years for, true pay equality. And so I think I'm more focused on what are we doing to create that? What noise are we creating today? And so and then, from an action perspective, the more women that I help get to executive level decisions, that's really all I'm focused on right now. Yeah, but are we changing perception? We'd have to ask a man.
Well, you said it though. You did say it though, like with action comes progress. So as long as you're focused on what we're doing, then it'll come. Leslie, anything you want to
A
add
lot,
to that?
if you think about, yeah, I would just say, Brooke, if you think about what's in place today that wasn't in place just 5-10 years ago, we've definitely made progress on the action front. So the Women in Leadership group I mentioned, through ASA, all of the associations, quite frankly, coming together to put data in front of us to show what our statistics are and staffing. It's around 50-50, basically equality in the entry level roles, and then it drops to the low 20% when we get into the C-suite. So at least we're now grounded in data, which is the first time we've ever had that. And I know they'll be working on another study coming up here in the coming months, so we can actually see, have we made progress? So perception needs to become reality, and being grounded in data really helps. My mom actually sits in on a lot of the events that we do. And she had said to me once after one of the meetings, she said, "This is incredible. I never had anything like this." And she ended up putting herself back through school and becoming a CEO of multiple credit unions. And she just said, this support network that you all have created for one another and your different groups and the activities that the associations do, she didn't have anything like that, and really wish that she had. And I think back to early on in my career, and I don't remember anything like this either. So I think we're hopefully going to see that progress and that action will definitely lead to the numbers shifting in the right direction. It's just going to take a long time to get it to completely be at equality.
For sure. What are some of the conversations we should be having that we're not having yet?
Ooh, that is a loaded question. Well, I think, I think if you see something, say something. That's where I see inaction happening more constantly. If you are in a position of power, and I'll give you a good example. I had the opportunity to speak somewhere and on a panel, and I noticed that I was the only woman. And, because I have a little bit of credibility, I was like, I'd really like to see some equality on this panel. And I think it'd be better received if we had better representation. So when Maya Angelou, when you know better, do better. And that, I think, is the most important thing.
That's huge that you spoke up. That is huge.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that are being overlooked at when hiring and retaining women?
Again, I think just having those open conversations and making sure that your company is actually inclusive and accepting of what women bring to the table. If it's wanting to have families, I had a conversation once with the Rising Star recruiter. Bullhorn used to do these awards called Rising Stars, and we would give them out. And I was one of the judges of the program, and there was someone up for recruiter Rising Star. And I said, "Oh, this is so incredible. What's next for you? And tell me about your dreams and your career." And she said, "Actually, this is a rising star." She said, "Actually, I don't think I can stay within this industry. I think I'm going to have to go into training. It's too demanding. And one day I'm going to get married, have a family." Mind you, she was single in her mid to late 20s and was already opting out because there was this perception that we weren't supportive as an industry. And when you look at just the statistics, you might say, "Gosh, how could I make it in this industry if there aren't more women in the C-suite?" It must be that the hours are terrible, or, like you hear the stories of men getting promoted while women are on mat leave, and people getting increases and women getting, overlooked because they had to take time off to raise their family. So I think just being aware of that and having those conversations, and then women being in a position to have those conversations, making that uncomfortable conversation a little bit more comfortable, to make sure that you say, even if you're going out on leave, "Please don't overlook me. I want that opportunity. Reach out to me. Let me know what's happening." The more we can take down some of the barriers of the past and create something new for the future that works for each person, and each person to be their own champion, I think the more we'll have change. But it's systemic, and there are things that in general we need to change just perception wise as it relates to women in general, and then making sure at each company, are you inclusive? Are you welcoming? And really take a look at that foundation before you try to add a lot of diversity into your company. Get your house in order, as they say.
Women shouldn't be terrified to take time off. I remember my mat leave and being absolutely terrified that I would be replaced. I would be, that somebody else was going to be, allowed to come in and take on my role, because I had seen it happen. And women there shouldn't be fear to have a family. And I think, some of the change that I have seen as we look at, mental health, and it's okay to be human at work, and talking about emotions at work and those types of things. I love that we're talking about that now. And we need to take it one step further. Women should not be afraid to take time off because they are having a family.
Right.
We can do it.
Look at Jessica Calzaretta. She is the president of Insight Global Healthcare. She was on maternity leave when those conversations started to happen about her taking on that president role of a new division. Jesse Gunther with Allegis, same thing. But she made it clear, when I'm out on maternity leave, make sure you reach out to me. I want to know. I don't want to be overlooked. And, they kind of each use their voice, and then their male allies were really there for them in both of those cases. So it can happen. I've seen progress, but you're right. That fear is real, and unfortunately still exists for a lot of people.
Yep.
Well, that's incredible. I know one last question before we go, ladies, because I know I just want everybody to be talking about it. Let's talk about the book real quick. How did it get started? What was your inspiration? Some of your favorite nuggets from it? Where do you want it to go?
I'll kick off, and then Lauren, I'll let you bring us home. So basically back in March of 2020, we were supposed to be in Miami celebrating our dear friend Joyce Russell, who now is the president of Adecco's US Foundation. She was launching her own book, A Cherry on Top, and a group of us were getting together for dinner during Executive Forum in Miami. And that there were around 15 of us getting together. That Friday, the conference was canceled. We were supposed to have dinner on Monday. We decided to still have a Zoom call, because that's what everyone was doing at the time, to have Joyce share with all of us about her book. So we still wanted to celebrate her. Coming out of that one Zoom call, it led to so much greatness. It's truly unbelievable, but it led to the Lady Leaders Book Club being created. And we all met every month through the pandemic, whether it was inviting authors really well-known authors, Erica Keswin, Gay Gaddis, and several others, Heather Monahan, to come and speak to our group. But we also had chefs come in and cook with us. We had workout instructors. We did virtual facials. And then we got down to business too, though, Brooke. We helped each other in a time when, we really felt alone, afraid. You had women who were transitioning. Lauren will talk about that, and starting their own companies during a pandemic. We had women who were CEOs of global companies, some publicly traded, in roles that, yes, while they had been through a downturn, maybe in the past, but possibly not as a CEO and possibly not dealing with the board or investors. So we brought experts in to help us. When George Floyd's murder happened, that really obviously hit the industry. It hit all of us extraordinarily hard. We launched another DE&I group in support of what can we do to take down competitive barriers and just be there for each other, to rise each other up. And an author came after meeting us and speaking to us. Actually, Jeff Bowling from the industry introduced us, and she said, you all should publish a book. You should talk about women coming together and how you have really helped each other rise. And it's something that everyone should hear about and know about, because in the past, it hasn't been something we've all been gifted with, women supporting us. And to see that change, and to see strangers, by the way, people, not everyone knew each other. So had we just had that dinner, this would not have happened. We would have met a few people and we would have walked out and made some friendships, but this would not have happened, what came of it. So I'll let Lauren share a little bit more about this and our hope for it.
Yeah, I mean, when I say that this group of women came together like nothing I've ever seen, nothing in my lifetime that I've seen, I was a brand new entrepreneur. My first 3 customers came from that network, or came from our Lady Leaders group. And, to date, I think we've all sort of cross-pollinated and doing business with one another, and supporting one another in a variety of ways. And so this group sort of changed the trajectory of my business, financially, all and emotionally, from a support perspective, because in my 24-year career, I can count on 2 fingers the women that were supportive to me. And I think that is it's a huge loss. And it's a huge opportunity for me. And I think I told this to Leslie, when we first started the book club. I'm like, I will not be a part of the problem. If there's a woman that I have a conflict with, I'm going to bury that hatchet. And we are, and I literally took, a couple women, where there were some, we had, I don't know, what was competitive or what have you. And part of this women against women is systemic, right? There have only been the scarcity of roles for us. It's no wonder that, we're kind of scratching and clawing to if there's one role available and there's 5 of us, standing in the room. So I think that this group showed me that there are women that will call your name out in a group of people, in a room of opportunities. There are women that will say your name, which was an amazing lesson to learn. And in 2021, I committed to 1 deliberate act a day to help another woman rise. And for me, it's now a habit. Like what can I do for someone else? How can I help somebody else? How can I help another woman be better? How can I contribute to her success? And whether it's sharing a post, it's the little things, ladies. It's the little things. And if you think you're not doing something, if you are supporting another woman in a small or large way, you are taking the action. And so that this book, and you asked a pretty loaded question of where do we want it to go? I want it to change. I want it to change women's perception. I want it to be a vehicle of sharing other women's stories. And so I am going to say right here, right now, we will have another book. What it's inclusive of, I don't know yet, but we want to share women's stories. And we want other women to see themselves in the stories that we share. Mm-hmm. And because it's that representation that will help create action, that will help create change.
Yeah. And I'll just add, Brooke, real quickly, we want our male allies to read
Yes.
it coming out of, we did a keynote, all the lady leaders, every single one of us during executive forum to close out the conference, and the men coming up to us after wanting to know
Overwhelming.
how they can help and worried about their daughters. Quite frankly, they didn't realize that all of these things happen, or maybe if they knew it, they didn't know kind of what they could do. And just by reading the stories and sharing them across the board, we really want to make a difference for everyone to see that they can be part of this change.
You took the words right out of my mouth. The end. I was going to say, women, get your hands on this book, but men, you need to read it too. So you guys, thank you so much for your time, ladies. I know that you guys are very busy, so making the time for me is very important. You really are true women leaders. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brooke.
And you do the same. Thanks
Yeah.
for bringing all of these voices to the market. We appreciate you and what you're doing.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you, Brooke.
Take care. Bye.